This is Paul from letslearnspanish.com, and in this short lesson I'm going to show you a very easy way to express I was or were going to with Spanish verbs. For example, I was going to go. He was going to explain it. We were going to see it. They were going to notice. So this tense is very useful for expressing yourself in everyday spoken Spanish. And best of all, you can apply it to practically any verb simply by learning this one simple rule which I'm going to teach you today. So all you have to do is memorize the following 5 handles. To say I was going to is iba a. Iba a. To say you were going to is ibas a. Ibas a. For he, she, and it was going to is iba a. It's the same as I was going to. So it doesn't matter if you're saying I was going to, he was going to, she was going to, it was going to, it's all iba a. For we were going to, it's íbamos a. Íbamos a. And finally, for they were going to, it's iban a. Iban a. So the simple formula is that you have those 5 handles: iba a, ibasa, iba a, íbamos a, and iban a. And after that you can put any full verb and you're going to be able to express this was or were going to tense. So here's exactly how it would work. Let's take the example of, say you wanted to say I was going to explain. Well, the handle for I was going to is iba a. And the verb to explain in Spanish is explicar. So all you have to do is put the two of them together. Iba a explicar. I was going to explain. Another example might be I was going to go. So I was going to, we know the handle is iba a, and the verb to go is ir. So putting both of them together, iba a ir. I was going to go. Another example would be I was going to ask. So again, we have our handle iba a for I was going to. The verb to ask is preguntar. Put the both of them together. Iba a preguntar means I was going to ask. And sometimes when someone is quick with their Spanish, they'll contract iba and a together. So all you'll hear is iba preguntar. Iba preguntar. They contract the iba and the a together as one word. But unless you're very quick at your Spanish and quite confident in it, I would recommend that you separate the two words until you really get confident with using this. So iba a preguntar, just to be super clear to anyone who is listening to you. We can also hook stuff onto the end of verbs. So if you wanted to say, I was going to ask it, well, you simply hook the it part onto the end of the verb, and that's written as lo. So I was going to is iba a, to ask is preguntar, and it would be lo. Iba a preguntarlo. You contract the verb and the it together. Preguntarlo. I was going to ask it. This works in the same way no matter what verb you're using. So for example, if we wanted to say I was going to explain it, the same principle applies. Iba a explicarlo. Now remember, we have 5 handles. So we could also say they were going to ask. Now the handle for they were going to is iban a. Or if you were quick, it would be ibana when you contract it together. And the verb to ask is preguntar. So putting it together, iban a preguntar. They were going to ask. Or if you contracted it, iban a preguntar. We can also have something like we were going to explain, which is another handle. So we were going to is íbamos a, and the verb to explain is explicar. So you just put the two of them together. Íbamos a explicar. We were going to explain. Or if we want to say we were going to explain it, you hook the it onto the end of the verb. íbamos a explicarlo. Now you can also ask questions simply by changing the intonation of your voice. So for example, if you were talking to a friend and you wanted to ask, were you going to explain? You simply use the intonation of your voice to form the question. So you were going to, when talking to a friend or directly to a person in front of you, is ibas a. Ibas a. And the verb to explain is explicar. So you have the same order, but just by changing the intonation of your voice into a question, you get to form the question. ¿Ibas a explicar? Or, were you going to explain it? ¿Ibas a explicarlo? So let's quickly recap on what we've been through in this lesson. We learned 5 simple handles. Iba a, ibas a, iba a, íbamos a, and iban a. And after that we were able to put a variety of different verbs, and this allowed us to express them with was going to or were going to. I was going to explain, I was going to go, they were going to ask, and so forth. So the thing to do is to run through the list of 5 handles and make sure that you memorize them just by going over them around and around. Then close your eyes and try and recall them. So you want to know for each one, I was going to, he, she, it was going to, you were going to, they were going to, and so forth. And once you're pretty sure that you have got them down, I've prepared a little test for you to take on my website, letslearnspanish.com, and the link is there in the description box. And what will happen is I'll run through a series of questions, and then you'll be able to do the translations yourself by thinking it out in Spanish. And if you can pass that little test, you'll know that you've fully understood everything that I've been through in this lesson, and that will give you the confidence to start immediately incorporating it into your own spoken Spanish.